Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on this channel. I will be starting a new series here on this channel, and in this new series I will be focusing on interview questions that are asked in DevOps and SRE interviews. So if you are preparing for SRE and DevOps interview, this new series will be very helpful for you. So we will be covering a lot of questions. So I will be starting with this question here. What happens when you run or when you type ls command on the command line? And do note that all these questions, right, whatever we cover, we will be covering that in the context of Linux operating system. So for example, this question I am covering in context of Linux operating system. So let's say you are on the command line on a Linux operating system, and then you type this command ls on the command line, and then you press enter. Then what actually happens on the background, or we can say what actually happens on the operating system level, right, after you run this command. So we will go into depth of this, right, what actually happens. Let's first understand the difference between shell program and terminal. So terminal is a kind of device that is used for taking input and also displaying output. So this terminal is there, right? So you can, use your keyboard and write some input here. And then once you press enter, and then you will also see some output here on this terminal. Now, what is this shell program? Now, this shell program is running on the background here, and it will take your input. So whatever input you give on the terminal, then that will be passed on to this shell program. And this shell program, what it will do it will pass the input, whatever you have given. It will process that input. And finally, it will also have an output. And that output, then it will pass to the terminal, and then terminal will show you the output. So you understand the difference now, right? Terminal is a kind of device that is used for input and output, and then you have the shell program running on the background that is actually parsing and processing your whatever you are writing here, whatever command you are writing here, that is processed by the shell program. Now you have different shells. The most popular one is the bash, and bash is the open source one. You can also search for the code for bash. Then you have ksh is there, ZSH is there. These are also some of the popular shell program. Now, what will happen first? So once, see, this is applicable everywhere. This is not only applicable for ls command. Whatever I am discussing here, that is not applicable only for ls command. Whatever commands you run on the shell, these are applicable for all those commands. Now, first step is parsing the input by the shell. So what the shell will do, it will first parse the input, whatever input you have provided on the terminal, right? It will first parse it. Now, as the first step, it will break down the commands into tokens. The reason is that the command can be very simple as ls, but it can also be very complex, right? You can provide a lot of flags in the ls command. You may also use pipe operator after ls command. You may also redirect the output to some file within the ls command. So a command can be very complex. So the shell has to pass this command, like break down this complex command into tokens. And then it has to make sense of all these tokens, right? What is the meaning of all these tokens? In the next step, the shell program will check for shell expansion. So what do we mean by shell expansion here? The meaning is that there are something like, let's say, star, right? So you can write something like ls star. Then it has different meaning for the shell. The star has different meaning for the shell. Similarly, dollar has separate meaning for the shell, and braces has separate meaning for the shell. So the shell has to expand this, right, into meaningful and what their meaning actually are. And you can also open this link, like I have pasted one link here, to understand what actually shell expansion is. I can give you a simple example of ls star. What does this star mean here? Star means that, okay, all the files and directories that are in the current directory, right? So that's what star will expand into. Then you have other expansion also like dollar and braces. Those have separate meanings for the shell. The next step is the shell program will check for alias. So every command can also have an alias name. For example, I can set the alias name for ls as ls minus l, right? Then what will happen is whenever you type ls command on the shell will then replace the ls command with the alias name, that is ls minus l here. Then next it will check, is the command a built-in command or not? The reason is that built-in command runs in different way than a non-built-in command. Now, what do you mean by built-in command here? So a built-in command is that command that is built within the shell itself. So every command has a program associated with it. Now in the built-in command, what will happen? The program of that command will be there in the shell program itself, right? But if you have non-built-in command, in that what will happen? The whatever program you have for non-built-in command, that will be located somewhere else on the disk. Next one is, let's say if the command is not a built-in command, then you have to find the path, right? Where that executable program, right? Where it is located. So that the shell will do. It will try to find the location of the executable program. Now, how it will do this? What it will do, it will search the paths defined within $path environment variable. So this is the environment variable, which is defined within the shell itself. And this $path will have a lot of paths associated with it. It can be /user bin, /bin, or many other, like /opt, let's say, for example, if you configure that in the shell, right? It can be any path basically. And you can basically change this path also. So whatever paths you have defined within this variable, it will search for this executable program within all these paths. Now, what happens if the program is not found within any path, right? So whatever path you have defined in $path environment variable, what happens if like this program, executable program is not found anywhere? For example, ls executable program here, right? Let's say if the ls is not found within any paths here. Now what happens in that case? You will see an error basically that command is not found. And if you have worked a lot on Linux operating system, right? On Linux operating system shell, you would have seen this error, command not found, a lot of times. And that usually happens because the shell is not able to find the location of the command. So once the shell program has found the location of the program, after that what it will do is it will execute the program. For example, let's say here the executable program for ls command is /user /bin /ls, right? So this is where actually the executable program is present. Now what will happen? Now the shell has to execute this program. Now how it will do this? What the shell program will do is it will create a new child process using fork system call. So fork system call is used for creating a new child process. Then what it will do is in the new child process, exec system call will be called, and this exec system call will actually run this command /user /bin /ls. So it will run this program basically. So in terms of parent and child process here, so here the parent process is the shell process and the child process is the one which it has created using fork system call. Now this child process, what it will do, it will use exec system call and then execute this program /user /bin /ls. And in the meantime, this parent process will wait, right? It will wait for child to finish. And once the child will finish, then what will happen? Parent will also start running, and then you will see the output of this command on your terminal or shell. And after that, the child process will be, of course, the child process has completed, so it will be terminated, and you will see the output of the command. But this is in the case of non-built-in commands, right? Because if the command is built-in, if the command is present within the shell program itself, right? In that case, the shell will not create a new child process. It does not have to create that because the code of that command, right, is present within the shell itself, right? So it can go there and run that command directly without creating a new child process. So that's the main difference, right, between a built-in command and a non-built-in command. This is one example. I've also shown this through code. So let's say this is this is a simple shell program, let's say, and we are looking only into that part where it is trying to run the command. Like there will be a lot of code in the shell program, right? There will be code for parsing the code and all. We are not looking into that. This is just a kind of example, right? This is not the exact code. That will be present in the bash shell or any other shell. This is just to make you understand, right, what happens actually. So basically, if you see in the first phase, if you see, right, in the first line, fork system call is being used to create a new child process. And how will you differentiate between this child process and parent process after using fork system call? After that, you will basically, what happens, the fork system call returns twice. In the child process, the return value will be 0. So basically you can check if PID equal to 0, that means you are in the child process, because now you have two processes, right? Parent process and child process. But if the PID is greater than 0, that means you are in the parent process. That's how you can differentiate between child and parent process. And in the child process, what we will do is we will run this. We will use this exec system call and then run this program, use /user/bin/ls. Now, of course, you can also pass some arguments here. And in the parent process, what the parent process will do, the parent process is a shell process. What it will do, it will wait for the child to finish. That's why the wait system call here. Then you also have the else section here. So in case the value of PID is lesser than 0, what that means is that the new child was not created. In that case, of course, there are some errors. So this is a kind of sample code that the shell program also runs on the background. I mean, of course, it will be more complex than this, but this is just for your understanding. So these were the basic steps that are used by the shell program for running any command. So parsing the command first, finding the location of the executable program, and then running the command by creating a new child process, and then using the exec system call there to run the command, right? And there is a difference when you have built-in command versus when you have a non-built-in command. And these are the basic steps here. But let's go into more details of this, right? So one of the important steps that happens in background is also this dynamic loading. So what is this dynamic loading? So let's understand this. So you have the ls command, right? You have a corresponding program for that. And that user, this command, right? /user/bin ls, this will be a C program. And when you are running programs, you will also be using a lot of libraries inside that, right? And before running that program, you also have to load all those libraries. Now you can either use static loading or dynamic loading. Now I will not go into details of like static loading and dynamic loading, but you can Google search and learn more about it. So let me give you a brief overview of what this dynamic loading is. So your program will have a lot of dependencies on a lot of libraries, right? So what will happen? In dynamic loading, what will happen? All these libraries will be loaded dynamically when you actually run the code, right? They will not be loaded when you compile the code. That will not happen. They will only be loaded when you actually run the code. So what the shell program will do is it will use some system calls to load all the libraries required by the program. So ls program we have here into the virtual memory at the runtime. And you can see a kind of like I have used *trace command to trace. Basically, so *trace command can give you all the system calls that the program is making. Now you can see, right? For example, one of the libraries here is libc.so, right? So means it is a kind of shared library. And you have this libc, that is a popular library for C programs. Now, basically, these are system calls used here. And basically, don't go into the details of this. So basically, what these lines means is that the kernel is trying to load this library libc.so, right? This library into the virtual memory of this ls program. Right? And do understand this part is very important, into the virtual memory, not into the physical memory. So let's now understand what is the advantage of using a shared library. So you can see here, right, a libc.so, right? This is a kind of shared library. So what is the advantage of using this? So you can see, I will take example of another library called common library.so, right? This is a shared library. And of course, it will have some code here. Now, so let's see the advantage of using this shared library. So if you see here, you have two programs, I mean, program 1 and program 2, and both have their virtual memory. Now you see what happens here is, of course, if you are using this library, I mean, you have to also load the code of this and also the data of this into the virtual memory of both the programs. That's what happens here. So here you have program 1 library code, you have program 1 library data, I mean, this library. And then you have program 2 library code and program 2 library data. So virtual memory has been allocated for all of this. Now, this is what, do remember, this is the virtual memory. This is not the actual memory. And if you do not remember the difference between virtual memory and physical memory, I mean, do go through my videos. I have created separate videos on this. Do watch those to understand that. Now, but if you see here, the mapping of virtual memory to physical memory, you will see a difference here. Now, you see the library code, right? Basically, this is the actual location, right? Physical memory location at which this code are actually present, right? Now, if you see, this is being shared by both the programs virtual memory. So you can see the arrows, right? It goes here, and also it is also goes here. So it is basically getting shared by both the process. But if you see the data section, of course, data section cannot be shared. So for data section, if you see different, I mean, you actually have a mapping, right? Different mappings in the physical memory. For example, if you see a program 1 library data, it is this one, this data, this is the mapping. And if you see for program 2 library data, this is the mapping. So of course, data part will be, I mean, for data part, you have to create multiple copies in the physical memory, but library code can be shared between both the programs. And that is the advantage of using shared libraries. Now let's discuss also about asterisk command. Like basically asterisk command is very useful if you want to understand how a command actually works. So what you can do is, so first understand what is asterisk command does. So it traces all the system calls made by a process. Okay. You also have ltrace command. So what the ltrace command will do, it will trace all the libraries call that you have made from the program. So how you can use this is you can use asterisk and then the command name. For example, I am running the ls command. So I can use asterisk then ls. And then you will see like, I mean, all the system calls that are being made by this ls command. So let's run this command asterisk with the ls option. So basically we are trying to trace the ls command. So all the system calls made by this ls command. And then we will redirect the output and error to this file output.txt, because the output is very large. So we will store that to a file. Okay. Then we will use less on this file to go step by step, like page by page. So of course you can see here, right at the top, you can see the exact system call is being used, right? So basically you will not see the for system call here, but actually for system is called by the shell program. But what you are seeing here, right? What you are seeing, these all steps are done by the child program, right? That's why you do not see the fork here, because fork was called by the parent process or the shell program. Now you can see, right, different system calls are there, right? And of course, you will not understand all of the system calls here, but do see here that there is a kind of pattern here that you will see. Like it will first try to, I mean, when you run, right, when you run this program user bin ls, right, it will try to load all the libraries, right, all the shared libraries on which this program ls program depends. So first you can see, right, it is trying to load this libsc linux, right, this shared library into the virtual memory of ls. So this whole code is for loading that, basically opening the file, then reading the file, creating the virtual memory, and then closing the file. Similarly, this will happen for all the libraries, right? If you see, this is for libcap.so.2. Similarly, it will keep happening for other libraries as well. So you can see, right, another libraries here. So this will happen for a lot of them. So we are not going into all of these here. So a lot of libraries are here, and similar thing has happened. You can also look into what this system call actually mean. But what I am going to look into is the actual important step that is used for this ls command. So what this ls command is used for, right? So this ls command is used for listing all the files and directories that are present in the current working directory. So the important step here is this one, this 3 actually, or maybe till here at least, right? So what is happening if you see, so basically this is also open system call. So open system call is used for opening a file. And then you see, I mean, the current working directory is passed here, and also dot is passed here, right? Dot means the current working directory basically, right? And other flags are passed here. And you have the file descriptor here as 3 here basically, right? Then you see after that, these are two important functions like get dents. So this is not a function, this is a system call actually. Now what this system call does is it will help you in getting all the, I mean, files and directories that are present here, right, at any path. So here the path given is of the current working directory, that is the path. So for example, if you see here, my path will be, if I run pwd, okay, my path here is /home/shivam, right? So whatever files and directories are present in this, I mean, directory will be listed, right, with the help of ls command. Now also you can see that the file descriptor of the current working directory is passed here, that is 3 here. And this will then give the, I mean, whatever files and directories are present in this, it will then provide that to the shell program. And then the shell program will show you that. So it will of course use the write command. And you can see, right, 2 files are present here, and you will write that on your screen. That is output.txt and test.py was present, right? So both of them will be then shown on your screen on the terminal basically. So yeah, this I wanted to go into just the working of ls actually. So which system call is used actually here, and then the writing by the shell program, right, to the here. I have shown that here also, that same thing, right? So initially all of the output, right, was related to the different loading of different libraries, basically all the shared libraries. And then one of the important code was this, basically opening the current working directory and then using this system call getDent to fetch all the files and directories in the current working directory, then closing this file and then showing whatever is the output on the terminal. So do remember that a lot of stuff is going in the background, right? When you run any command, for example, like I have gone into some of like the important ones, but I mean, questions can be asked on anything, right? So if you talk about fork, if you talk about exec, right, question can be based on that. Now, if you talk about, for example, system calls, then the question can be what are system calls actually, right? Give examples of system calls, and maybe they may also ask you, okay, what does this open system call does? What does this write system call does, right? These are some of the important system calls, for example, right? Similarly, questions can be on the shared libraries, right? What are the advantages of using shared libraries? And maybe different questions based on that. What is dynamic loading? How it is different from static loading? Also, maybe what is the use of wait system call, for example, right? And also, yeah, I mean, a lot of questions can be asked. Another question can be, right, you are trying to find the location of executable program, right? So how that happens on the background, right, on the operating system level, right? So of course we have just told here that, okay, the shell will find the program, right? But how do you actually find any program, right, on the operating system level? So basically you have to also study the file system, right? File system management by operating system. So all of, I mean, this can be asked, I mean, because this is a very open-ended questions and it covers almost all part of operating system, right? From system calls to process management, memory management, right? Then at last the file system management, right? So any question can be asked. So you can go through this, like this playlist here, where I have discussed all the concepts of operating system, like system calls, file system management, memory management, process management, right? And then you will get a lot better idea, I mean, like what actually is happening in the background. You will be able to connect it with this also. So yeah, that's what. So that was all about this famous interview question. And this question is asked a lot. And if you have any doubts, of course, this is a very open-ended question. So of course you will have a lot of doubts. So if you do have any doubts, or if you know of any other, I mean, important thing that happens in the background, right? Do mention that in comments also, that so that it can be helpful for others also. So that's all for this video. Thank you. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel and also like the video.